All right, Nick, let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. And today we have a really interesting article about an interview that the Dolphins head coach had. And he kind of goes into talking about when he exactly knew that Tua Tagovailoa was his guy, was the guy to run this Dolphins offense. And there's some really interesting points he brings up as to when and where exactly he figured it out. And I think there's some reassurance for Dolphins fans in there moving forward that Tua Tagovailoa is the guy, Nick.
Yeah, Miles, I think it's a very interesting report you found. I think a lot of Dolphins fans, whether they're Tua fans or not, will really come to appreciate it. Really interesting stuff from Mike McDaniel. But before we get into that report, Dolphins fans, we want to hear from you guys, as we always like to, in the comment section below. Draft season is upon us. A lot of mock drafts flying around here, a lot of so-called experts giving their opinions. But we know that you guys, the Dolphins fans, are plugged in. You know who the best option is for the Miami Dolphins to pick in a few weeks in the upcoming NFL draft. So let us know in the comment section below who you think the Miami Dolphins should select with the first pick that they have in this upcoming NFL draft. But okay, Miles, what you got? What's the latest out of Miami?
How McDaniel talks about Tua, Nick, in this interview that he had. He goes on to talk about exactly the moment that he sees that Tua is the guy and exactly what he saw from Tua that let him know he was the guy. And I think it was really interesting. So let me set the scene for you just a little bit here, Nick. So this was right before free agency last season, okay? McDaniel is sitting down. He's watching tape for Tua, and he's kind of looking at the offense. You know, he's more offensively minded type of guy. And he's thinking to himself, who do we need to add on this team to make this team better? What can I do? What fits my scheme, et cetera, et cetera? And he's watching tape, and he sees Tua, and he kind of likens him to like a point guard in a basketball game. Someone who can dish the ball accurately to everyone else so that they can score the points. And while he's watching this, Nick, he sees something that really catches his eye and kind of, just brings something to his attention. I'm going to read to you exactly what he said here, okay? He says, and I'm watching different skill positions, and as I progress through the tape, I start to notice a trend. Wow, that's like the 7th different outbreak that I've watched Tua throw to the field. An outbreak to the field I see once or twice a season. This is a high-risk throw quarterbacks are sometimes nervous to make, and he would make pinpoint throws every time. What started as an explanation of how guys need to be more open for Tua turned into this Marvel sesh that started out about 6:30 p.m., and I stayed up watching film until midnight on a random weekday in the offseason. I thought I knew, but I didn't even know what exactly we were sitting on. I am now freaking out. I know for a fact this night of study, this is the best quarterback for our offense, and now I have the chance to coach this guy. I am freaking out. So you love the passion here by McDaniel. You love and he sees something that catches his eye, just a route that Tua can throw. He can make the throw consistently, a lot of accuracy on a very tough route to throw. And he goes in for hours on this, Nick, just like building, making plans, going forward, saying, we need to capitalize on this. This is the guy. He can be aggressive enough to make my offense work. And this is the guy that I need, Nick. I think this was the whole interview from the Finsider. They go through the whole interview that he had. It was very, very interesting to read, Nick. But nonetheless, what do you think about McDaniel and his statement of exactly when the moment he realized Tua was the guy was?
Well, I think the first thing to understand with McDaniel, he's a straight shooter. He's an honest guy. He's kind of a quirky, weird guy, but with that, he's very authentic. I think he always kind of speaks his mind. He was asked recently about the Washington Commanders being sold and the valuation of that. And I think he was told a number. I think it was like $6 billion or whatever. And he was like, it's worth that much. And they wouldn't even give me free coffee when I was there, right? He's just an authentic guy, kind of just says what's on his mind. He's not a real politically minded guy, kind of the opposite of Bill Belichick, who keeps everything close to the vest. McDaniel kind of is just outward and authentic and just says what he thinks. And, he's not trying to hide anything, doesn't appear to have an agenda. So I don't think he's just trying to, falsely prop up Tua here or just spew a different pattern behind what the team has done. I think he honestly really believes what he said and, just reiterate how he felt last offseason. But it's not just how he felt, Miles, because you talked about before free agency, right? Breaking down film, trying to learn his player. People forget how rapidly and aggressively the Dolphins turned on their acquisitions last offseason, right? They they traded for Tyreek Hill 23 March, very early in free agency. They brought in Terron Armstead from the New Orleans Saints, offensive lineman, 22 March, very early in free agency, right? It's almost as if Mike McDaniel was kind of like, okay, Tua seems to be a pretty good guy and a pretty good quarterback, pretty solid. It's like, watches this film and he's like, oh my gosh, this guy's unbelievable. And then calls up Chris Greer and it's like, we need to get this guy elite talent. I don't care what kind of draft capital and salary cap we have to spend. We've got to get him elite players because this kid is special. Now that we know this, we see this article, we can trace it back and say, yeah, that's definitely what happened. And I think once and for all, Mice, this kind of settles the Tua debate in my mind because Mike McDaniel knows quality quarterback play because he coached under Shanahan, right? Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan is one of the smarter, well-known guys in terms of quarterback situations. He's able to turn guys like Brock Purdy into really efficient superstars because he knows how to run offenses. He knows how to turn limited quarterbacks into stars. The fact that Mike McDaniel looked at Tua and was like, this guy is not a limited quarterback that I can turn into a star. He's already a star. I think once again settles the Tua debate that he's a legitimate franchise MVP potentially caliber quarterback, and that with him behind the helm, just like the Bengals with Joe Burrow, the Miami Dolphins Super Bowl window will be wide open.
Let me give you one last quote here, Nick, and I just want to hear a quick word from you on it afterwards because it reiterates exactly what you just said, okay? McDaniel continues to say, I called Ann Nolan, head of PR, and I said, just write this date down. This is crazy. Get on the phone and call Chris Greer right now. I don't care if it's midnight. I'm like, dude, I just went through 700 different passes of Tua, and I cannot believe what we're seeing. This guy is doing stuff I just haven't even had the ability to focus on yet. We are literally sitting on a gold mine. Everything we do moving forward should be skilled players that can do stuff with a ball in their hand because if they're open, this guy will get it to them. Then he goes home. He says, I can't even sit down. And he went straight back to the office at 3 a.m. to refine the tape. And he's like, I've got to show all of this tape to everybody like early in the morning as soon as they get there. So that was another thing. And I think it just reiterates exactly what you said, Nick.
Yeah, Miles, it reminds me of the famous story of Dan Marino, obviously former Miami Dolphin Hall of Fame quarterback. In his very first appearance, he actually lost his game. And Don Shula, obviously the great head coach of the Miami Dolphins at the time, Hall of Famer in his own right, when he left the field after losing, ultra competitive Don Shula was famously smiling because he saw what Marino could do in person for the first time in a game situation and realized he, just like McDaniel with Tua, had stumbled upon a gold mine. So it looks like Miami Dolphins really do have something incredibly special building up. They've done everything right from the free agency, from the offseason to surround him with Tua. And as long as Tua can stay healthy, that'll be the key question. This team, in my opinion, is probably right up there with the Chiefs and right up there with the Bengals as the #1 contenders in the AFC.